Augusta's signature weapon along with the full information of the stats that it provides have been officially released, so in today's video we'll be diving a bit deeper into the pull value of this weapon by analyzing how it easily synergizes with Augusta to give you guys an idea what you should expect from her gameplay, because it's the first weapon of its kind that actually requires the user to gain a shield before they can receive some of the buffs that it provides from the passives, and then we'll dive into which characters can benefit from this weapon from a free-to-play perspective, other weapon options available for Augusta, and finally my pull recommendation to help you decide if you should pull for this weapon or not based on several situations. For the stats, she's rocking a whopping 675 base attack, which is absolutely insane, and it can actually increase her personal damage quite significantly, and that's perfect because her role in your team building is to do a large portion of your team's overall damage as a main damage dealer, and the high base attack explains why we have a low crit rate of 12.1%. This might seem to be a big issue because it gives us the impression that she'll be running low on crit rate. However, the Crown of Valor Sonata effect can provide crit damage when the wielder gains a shield, which is perfect for Augusta because of her Glory's Favor passive that grants her a small shield whenever she does any kind of damage. The specific amount of crit damage that it provides is not officially available at the time of making this video, but since it buffs attack as well, the crit damage will most likely be around like 20 to 25%. And the reasoning behind this speculation is that weapon substats can provide up to 48% crit damage like Jiyan's signature weapon, which corresponds to 24.3% crit rate on other signature weapons like Jinxi's for example. Since we've lost about half of that total crit rate to boost base attack from Augusta's signature weapon, it makes sense for her Sonata effect to give you crit damage that is worth the crit rate which has been lost from her signature weapon. This means that you can comfortably run a crit rate focused main stat while running her signature weapon. Now for the passives. The first part buffs attack by 12%, which is nothing special, but at least it's a universal buff that any other Broadblade unit can benefit from as long as they scale off attack. The second passive buffs heavy attack damage bonus by 20% for 15 seconds after casting an intro skill or resonance skill. The intro skill cast method of activation is very good because it makes the 20% heavy attack damage bonus quite accessible to any other character like Jiyan for example, as long as you use an intro skill before you cast this liberation. The third part of the passive will allow heavy attack damage to shred up to 36% of the target's defense at R1 when the wielder gains a shield. The universal defense shred is quite nice because it's not restricted to a specific attribute like Electro for example, but the issue here from a versatility point of view is that the wielder not only needs to obtain a shield but needs to be able to refresh the shields multiple times before you can stack the heavy attack damage defense shred up to 36%. To better explain the third passive, let's use a Brand, Mortefi, and Jiyan team composition for example, and assume that Jiyan is using Augusta's signature weapon. Brand can use his Forte skill and regenerate a shield for Jiyan once per rotation. This means that Jiyan will only benefit from just one stack of the defense shred, which is 7.2%, even though Brand regenerated a very thick shield for Jiyan. And the only way to gain another stack is for Brand to use his Forte skill again within 7 seconds, which is almost impossible. So be sure to keep in mind that the amount of shield is irrelevant. The focus is on how often another unit can refresh shields for the wielder of this weapon, or how the wielder themselves can refresh their shields like Augusta when she does damage. With that out of the way, let's get into this weapon's synergy with other characters in the game from a free-to-play perspective. The third passive is useless on everyone else, but in terms of synergy with the second passive, Jiyan will be the only character in the game that can make use of the 20% heavy attack damage bonus at R1. Since Jiyan requires an intro skill to use a special liberation, the intro skill method of activation is perfect for him. The buff also lasts for 15 seconds, and Jiyan's Qinglong liberation mode lasts for 10 seconds, which fits him quite nicely. Aside from Jiyan, there's no other Broadblade unit at the moment that scales heavily on heavy attack damage, but the weapon can be a universal alternative specifically for any Broadblade main damage dealer due to the high base attack and crit rate substat. Now let's get into Augusta's weapon alternatives. The good news is that those that have access to Jian's signature will not have to worry about getting her signature weapon because Augusta can use his weapon as if it was made for her. Casting an intro skill and using Augusta's normal liberation will give you all the 48% heavy attack damage bonus before you use her forte circuit, which is the Griffin attack, and the special liberation that stops time to do damage. But keep in mind that Jian is absolutely cracked in Wiwa or Whimpering Waste, so it'll become a problem if you want to play Augusta and Jian in the same challenge since you can't swap weapons in Whimpering Waste. Second priority will be Ages of Harvest, mainly due to the crit rate substat, which will come in handy if Augusta has crit damage on her skill tree. Third priority is Lupa's signature as a crit damage statistic, but if Augusta has crit damage on her skill tree, you'll face some issues with getting healthy crit stats, which makes her dependent on Shorekeeper. Lustrous Razor should be your last priority due to the lack of crit rate and crit damage substat, but feel free to use it if you don't have any other alternatives that I mentioned earlier. The only 4-star weapon option that I recommend is the new Battle Pass Broadblade weapon that provides attack and heavy attack damage bonus upon casting her liberation, but is locked behind a paywall and will not even perform better than Lustrous Razor when both of them are at R1 due to the low base attack, so you'll have to get about 3 copies before you'll see a significant increase in damage compared to Lustrous Razor. Now here are my pull recommendations. If you have Jian's signature weapon on your account and you don't use Jian more often, you can comfortably skip her signature weapon if you can barely afford Augusta and pull for her signature weapon as well. The best part about R1 Verdant Summit is that it can potentially do more damage than R1 of Augusta's signature weapon, mainly because of the crit damage substat, which can easily help you reach the 300 crit damage because of the additional crit damage that we get from Augusta's Sonata effect and contribute to more overall damage. The reasoning behind this from the perspective of always trying to balance your offensive stats is that the crit damage substat from Verdant Summit gets way more value in terms of damage output than the 36% defense resistance shred if your character is already at level 90. The crit damage also provides more value than the 88% additional base attack that you get from running Augusta's signature weapon, since we can get more attack percentage buffs from outside sources like Mochefi's S6 Rejuvenating Glow 5-piece effect and Moonlit Cloud's 5-piece Sonata effect, so chances of encountering diminishing returns for the attack stat is very high when running her signature weapon compared to Verdant Summit. But do keep in mind that I'm working on the assumption that she has crit rate on her skill tree and both weapons are at R1. For now, we can assume that Augusta's signature potentially offers a more easier playstyle at R1 since you'll be running a crit rate focused along with it, so you get to crit a lot of attacks, especially if she has nuke type damage, and team building becomes easier as well in case you cannot pair her with Shorekeeper to get the crit rate buff that she provides. Expect damage comparisons between the two weapons when Augusta gets officially released. Hope this video provided value to you, and if it did, leave a like and subscribe to support the channel because it's free and you can always change your mind. Be sure to also join our Discord community if you're having any issues with the game or you just want a place to chill or hang out. The link will be in the pinned comment below. Catch you guys in the next one. Bye bye.